Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to DTD Live Show. Let's discover the difference. First, let's welcome today's special guests, Crystal from Australia and Crystal from Taiwan. Say hi.
Hi everyone.
So today we're going to show you the huge difference of preferred transportation in Australia and Taiwan. To begin, this is a normal picture you will see what rush hour traffic would look like in any Western countries, including Australia. But this is a normal picture you will see in Taiwan. What if foreigners saw this? This would be their immediate reaction, because they would think this is absolutely unbelievable, outrageous, and unacceptable. If you still can't imagine the rampant motorbike phenomenon in Taiwan, here's something astonishing to show you. From the vehicles sold in the past 10 years, motorbikes sold in Taiwan has a 66% fraction, while in Australia, it is only 21%. So, before we begin our discussion, we actually did a survey on 48 students in NTU to have a brief understanding of motorbike and car usage in Taiwan. And here are some phenomenal statistics which may support our further analysis. We'll show you. First, you can see 69% of students have a license, while 76% among them holds a motorbike license. Second, we organized the main reasons why students prefer to have a motorbike license instead of a driving license. As you can see from the graph, 42% of students state that car usage is too limited due to numerous geographical constraints in the cities. 27% stress that getting a car license requires too much time of training, while another 27% advocate that getting a car license is too costly. When asked about the main advantages of riding a motorbike, you can see 41% of students consider motorbike a great tool to hang out with friends. 35% endorse that motorbike is relatively time efficient, even in big cities with sound public transportation. Moreover, 16% thinks that due to much more parking spaces of motorbikes in the cities, they consider the parking issue also an advantage of riding a motorbike. 4. You can see up to 83% of students have at least one motorbike in their families. That's a shocking number. 5. You can see 70% of students have only one car in their families. So, Crystal, according to the results of our survey, does our results match your further analysis?
Yes, it does. And we have organized the key factors into 5 parts: history, geography, law, cost, and society.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. So let's give our time to Crystal and Crystal.
Okay, thank you, Ben. So let's start from the history part. The motorbike first appeared in Taiwan during Japanese colonial period, but it was only for the upper class. In the 1960s, the Taiwanese government promoted the motorbike industry in order to stimulate the economy, and this was where motorbike became popular. Then, in the 1980s, many companies started to design girl-style motorbikes, and this also stimulated the market share of the motorbike in Taiwan.
Because Australia is relatively isolated to other countries geographically, it's more practical that we designed and produced our cars from scratch. And Australia has always been famous for large passenger vehicles, just due to larger family size.
Wow, that's a very interesting historical background. How about geography?
Well, let's take the biggest city in both countries, Taipei and Sydney, as example. Since Taipei is so small, the distance to travel from one point to another is often short. Therefore, using a motorbike would be efficient. Moreover, the high population density in Taiwan limits space that can be used for parking. So, owning a motorbike is more convenient for parking as it is smaller in size.
And travel distances in Australia are much longer than in Taiwan. Just compare the size of Taipei to Sydney. The size of Taipei is 271.7 kilometers square, and the size of Sydney is 12,145 kilometers square.
40 times larger than Taipei, isn't it? I can't imagine how long it takes for people to travel to their work in Sydney.
Yes, indeed. And also, in 2012, 39% of Australians' average distance to work was more than 20 kilometres. So because of this long distance, it's more convenient that we choose a car over a motorbike, because travelling long distances on a motorbike is very uncomfortable and becomes tiring.
The law. In Taiwan, you only have to pass a quiz to get a motorbike license without training hours. You can go for the test after breakfast and then bring your license home by lunch. However, a car license requires months of training.
The steps to get a motorcycle and car license in Australia is quite vigorous and includes multiple written and driving tests. And one very important thing to note is that getting a car license in Australia is actually not that different from getting a motorcycle license. And both require, as you can see, 120 hours of training. And also, in Australia, the failure rate of a driving test is very high, whilst in Taiwan I know that the chance of failing a scooter test is close to zero.
Crystal, I wonder how many times did you fail to get a car license in Australia?
This is very embarrassing to say, but I had to fail twice before passing the test. And yes, I'm a very bad driver.
How about the cost? Here we put the average price of motorbikes and cars over GDP instead of just using the average price, because this takes into consideration the purchasing power of the population. So you can find out that the motorbike in Taiwan is so cheap and affordable that most of the younger generation can afford to buy one, whilst buying a car is too costly.
But Crystal, why don't people rather just take a metro system, since we all know that metro system in Taipei is so cheap and it's convenient, right?
Well, it's not true. Let me give you an example. You live in Zhangkai Memorial Hall and commute every day by metro to Gongguan. It will cost you about 1,000 NT dollars per month. But if you ride a 125cc motorbike to travel 4 kilometers between Zhangkai Memorial Hall and Gongguan, the fuel will cost you only 200 NT dollars per month.
And also, looking at the last row of the table, the motorbike to car price ratio in Taiwan is 0.074, and in Australia it is 0.25. So this shows that it is significantly cheaper to get a motorcycle than a car in Taiwan, whilst in Australia the price difference is just not as substantial.
How about other cultural reasons? As we've just said that buying a car is quite costly in Taiwan. And also, each Taiwanese seems to own only one car. The vehicle has already become something scarce and precious in the family. As a result, Taiwanese parents have less willing to lend their car to their children. And also, if you can ride a motorbike, there will be less of a chance for you to hang out with friends.
And in 2012, 28% of adults in Australia travelling to work on a car said that the main reason was because they preferred the convenience, the privacy and the comfort that a passenger car provided. So this means that privacy and comfort are factors that are very important to Australians when talking about transport. So they would choose cars over motorcycles because cars are generally more comfortable and they offer more personal space and privacy. And another interesting thing is that Australia is ranked 8th in the world when talking about having the greatest number of cars per person per country. So in households, parents are more willing, I guess, to just trust their kids to drive the car, and they're more willing to lend the car to them to drive. So if there's 2 cars in the family, the more expensive car the parents could keep at home, and they could let their kids drive the less expensive car. So this concludes our explanation of the 5 different factors.
Wow, that's just more than impressive. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as we take a brief review of our previous survey, as you can see in the reds, there are the 5 key factors that Crystal and Crystal just mentioned, and you can see they perfectly fit the results of our survey. As you can see, geography, law, society, and other cultural reasons, they match. So, now you have a clear picture of why preferred transportation is so different in Australia and Taiwan. So next time you foreigners visit Taiwan, forget about the driving and simply indulge yourself in a pleasant motorbike ride and enjoy the beauty of this island. We thank you for discovering the difference with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow 8 p.m. at DTD Live Show. Good night.